pH stands for potential hydrogen and is a measurement of whether or not your water is acidic, neutral, or basic. You're going to want to maintain your pH every 2 to 3 days. In the North Texas area, pH tends to be on the high side, so you're going to need to utilize muriatic acid regularly to lower your pH. Sometimes your pH will go too low. In that case, you're going to want to use a thing called soda ash to bring it back up. So, where does the best pH lie for your pool? You're going to want to test your pH every 2 to 3 days and make sure that it's in between 7.2 and 7.6. The best pH for swimmer comfort is going to be 7.5 because the pH of your eyes is somewhere around 7.5. So, maintain your pool pH between 7.2 and 7.6 for purposes of bather comfort, but also for the look and feel of your pool water. High pH can lead to cloudy water, which is not appealing. It doesn't look good. The other problem with high pH is that when pH goes above 8, you create an atmosphere in your pool for calcium scaling. You can have normal levels of calcium and still experience scaling when your pH is above 8. The reason for this is water likes to naturally feel balanced. So when your pH goes above 8, water tries to balance itself by breaking its bonds with other things that it's bound with. One of those is going to be calcium. So your pH goes above 8, your water goes, I need to balance myself, meh, and gets rid of the calcium, which then ends up on your plaster and on your tile. And it's very frustrating to get rid of. So it's super important to maintain your pH between 7.2 and 7.6 regularly. The chemical name for chlorine in your pool through tablets and through shocks like calcium hypochlorite or sodium dichlor is called hypochlorous acid. It's expressed as HOCl. HOCl is very, very effective at sanitizing and oxidizing water. But what happens when your pH goes above 8.0 is that the H, the hydrogen, breaks away from the OCl. So what you're left with as your chlorine is a thing called OCl negative, which is only 1% as effective at sanitizing water as HOCl. So when your pH goes above 8.0, your chlorine can no longer function properly, meaning it won't suppress algae and it won't be able to kill bacteria and germs. So regularly maintaining your pH between 7.2 and 7.6 ensures a better look for your water, prevents calcium scaling, and ensures proper chlorine function. So how do you test for pH? Well, let's check out this video on using a Taylor K2005 test kit, the test kit that we recommend you use to test for pH and to figure out how much muriatic acid you need to lower it or how much soda ash you need to raise it. To test for pH, what you want to do, go ahead and empty out the comparator compartment. You can dump it right into your swimming pool so that the reagents are oxidized. It's not going to hurt anything. Now, after you've sort of rinsed out the comparator, we need to use the larger compartment. We're going to fill the larger compartment up to the top mark, which is 44. The first thing you do once you fill it up to 44 is take the very first red bottle, which is R0004. It's the red pH indicator. Again, holding it completely vertically upside down, add 5 drops of the R0004 to the sample of 44 milliliters. Now, using the rubber cap provided or just the palm of your hand, cover the top of that comparator compartment and shake it up. Once you've shaken up the sample, make sure the comparator is flipped to the right side. This is the side that had the chlorine reading on it and also has the pH readings on it. Now what we need to do is hold up the comparator to either a white piece of paper or into some sunlight, so we make sure we get an accurate comparison. Match the shade of the pH liquid as best you can to the colors provided. So now, typically, your pH will either be in range or it will be too high. That's what we mostly see in the North Texas area. What we're going to do now is pretend that our pH was high. Let's pretend that it was about 8.0. Now, we need to figure out how much muriatic acid we need to add to bring the pH back down from 8 to about 7.4. So to do that, you can either go to our online water testing module, input your pH reading, and it will give you a dosage chart, or we can use the Taylor kit to do what's called an acid demand test. And all you do, it's very simple. Take that second red bottle, it's R0005. It's called acid demand reagent. We take this reagent and we start adding it a drop at a time. Count the number of drops that you have to add. in order to get that pH color from the 8.0 back down to the 7.4. Let's pretend that it took 4 drops to get the pH back down from 8.0 to 7.4. What we need to do now is refer to Taylor's treatment tables. The treatment table for the acid demand test is on page 57. The way this table works is, as you can see across the top, there's gallons, and down to the left side, there's number of drops. So if we did 4 drops and our pool is 10,000 gallons, we need to add about 1.15 quarts of muriatic acid, right around 5 cups, in order to bring the pH down from 8 to 7.4. So, now that we know how much acid we need, we can go ahead and add it and correct our pH. pH should be tested every 2 to 3 days. It's very important to keep your pH in range because chemicals do not function properly, especially chlorine. Chlorine is pretty much ineffective at a pH above 7.8. It cannot sanitize. Therefore, when your pH is high, you're at risk of having algae blooms, as well as having waterborne illnesses form in your water because the chlorine can't sanitize. So, check your pH every 2 to 3 days and adjust it as necessary. The last red bottle in the test is called a base demand test. And what I'm going to do now is pretend that our pH was too low. We pretend that our pH was right around 7, so we need to raise it. Just like the acid demand test, if your pH was too low, you would take the base demand reagent, R006, and add it drop by drop until the color increased from the 7.0 up to the 7.4. Let's pretend it took 4 drops of the base demand reagent to get our proper pH level. Now we need to go to page 56. Page 56 is increasing pH using soda ash. This is the treatment table that we need to figure out how much soda ash to add to raise our pH up. So, 4 drops at 10,000 gallons of water, you need about 1.28 pounds of soda ash, or sodium carbonate, in order to raise your pH to a proper level. Now that we know, we can simply take the proper amount of chemical, add it to the water, and know that our pH is going to be okay. That's how you test for pH using a Taylor K2005. Let's move on now to the next test, which is total alkalinity. This concludes the section on pH. To continue with chemistry school, please see the video for total alkalinity. Thank you for choosing riverbendpoolsupply.com for all your pool needs.